What's going on YouTube? It's fineokay, and today I'm bringing you guys a video on how to ward in Season 5. I've been getting quite a few requests on how to ward and stuff like that, and I think it's a pretty important concept. There's not a lot of videos or articles or anything like that, I guess just content kind of going over it, at least in solo lane. So I figured I'd make that video today. So I already have Paint opened with the Season 5 map. Later on we're going to go actually into the game and show you where exactly these wards are going to be and how much vision they give you and why it's important. So let's just start off with here in Paint. I already have some things X'd out, I guess, and I'll just go through that real quick. So these two red wards are just your standard lane wards. This is if you're playing maybe a passive god or maybe just like a neutral god. In lane, kind of like Amaterasu, maybe like a Guardian, stuff like that. These two wards will cover the only two options to get into your lane besides the actual lane itself. For like a Mercury, because you know Mercuries can ult from like back here, so you're playing on order side, they can ult through lane. So let me just get color blank real quick. So this little red X is your first ward, and it's your defensive ward. This will cover this path right here, coming through here, and also cover this path through here and coming from fire. So if you're having to play passive, say their jungler is in your side of the jungle, it'll cover all those paths into your lane, so you shouldn't be getting ganked from there. And also the thing with wards is they provide information for the rest of your team. Say you have a mid laner, you know, who's like sitting up in mid, you know, up there. Oh, what the heck? He's right here, and he sees their jungler on this ward. That means he knows that, you know, he's pretty far away. He can play aggressive for a little bit, so that's kind of important. Let me take all that out. So that's your first ward. The next ward is right here, obviously, the second red X, and this covers this path, it covers this path, it covers the path through FG. It'll clip all of those, so if they ever gank through any of this. The thing with regular wards right now is they got decreased vision not too long ago, I think the middle of last season or something. I kind of forget. But it'll clip them, and you can see them coming to gank your lane, so that's another important ward. And this is if like you're playing a little bit up in lane. Right when you see that, you know, you can just kind of sit on this side of the solo lane towards this right side of the wall, and they'll never be able to. You'll have so much space between you two that it's like you'll never get killed from a gank, and you know you just gotta play with that information basically. So let's take that off. So that's the red. This is your, I guess, passive or neutral wards. And then if you're playing a super aggressive god, say you're playing Osiris, Bellona, Kokolin, a lot of those characters, usually you're going to be getting ganked from like this path right here. They'll come through here because you're going to be sitting at their tower line a lot. So these two wards cover that. Oh wait, I don't know why I'm Xing over that. This X and this X, these are two wards that are going to cover that option. They're going to be coming from their side of the jungle to come gank you, kind of like that. So those two wards will cover that, and it allows you to kind of, you know, get a timer on their back camps, because if you're playing aggressive in lane, you want to have that timer, so maybe you can go and invade that. It'll cover this to see when their jungler comes over to their blue, and you can maybe get the timer on that and invade that. So these two aggressive wards are really important. And like I said, they are for the aggressive solo laners. This isn't if, you know, you're playing like Sobek and you're sitting back here the entire time. There's no point of you going all the way up here and warding here, unless it gets to the point where you're unkillable and you're just proxying waves and they're proxying waves. Then these wards will be decent and easier to ward. So these are your aggressive wards, your blue wards. This yellow X is for global ultimates like Thor, Thanatos, Rat. A lot of times they'll ult from the Fire Giant pit. That's the most common place. But because it's the most common place, that means that the junglers will recognize that they maybe should ult from somewhere else. So a lot of times global ults will come from right here or like right here. And these wards should cover that option when they cross. So if you see them in this side of the jungle and then they disappear, you got to kind of play back, just, you know, recognizing that they could global ult you, and you know you could easily get ganked from that position. So keep these wards in mind. This X ward, or this yellow X ward, is, like I said, for the global ults like Thanatos, Rat, Thor, most importantly, and stuff like that. So keep that in mind for solo lane. And then these two white wards are obviously not your wards, because you won't be able to place them because you're going to need your wards over here. These are your mid lane wards, or your jungler wards, that are going to be super useful for you, because even though they're pretty far away from your lane, this is a common path from mid lane over to this side of the jungle. Say their jungler is in mid, he pushes a wave, and then he crosses down here. If you see him go down this way, that means he's going for these backs, and that means he could be coming through this way, right? So you got to be careful of that. If you see him go up towards mid camps, he can come through here and then come through that way, and you have that ward for it. It's just earlier information that's going to help you. Same thing with this. If you see their mid laner or their jungler go back this way, you know that he's at their back camps. If you see him cross through here, he may be at mid camps or going towards Fire Giant pit, which means he may be looking for, you know, a blue buff or, you know, a gank or something like that. So be careful of that. So these are just like, obviously you're not going to be placing them. You can't really communicate to your team that you need those wards there, but if you're in a competitive setting or just, you know, for this is like for mid laners or junglers, those are pretty good wards to have for that, for those situations I just described. Excuse me. And then honestly, if you're trying to play super aggressive, having a ward towards their speed buff, just placing one on it to get the timer is always useful. If you're, you're proxying waves nonstop, you're never really getting ganked because you can't really be killed at this point in the game. This is like the point where you have like a few items and you're, I don't know, super tanky and something like that. Then having a ward on their speed might be useful because then you can know when their jungler's on their speed buff and you could rotate over to gold, or you can pressure that speed buff when it's up as a solo laner. So that's basically the start of this video. I just wanted to go over like the paint and where these wards should be placed and what you can do with them. Now we're going to go into the actual game itself. Oh, player disconnected. That's awkward. I had a game set up perfectly. Let me just go through it real quick. Okay. Let's create a room. Conquest, 1v1, blind pick, blah, 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 blah. We'll do level 20 just so we can zoom out of base. And we'll go 999 gold. Add a bot, and we'll get into game real quick. Sorry about this. A little wait. I was in game, but it kicked me out. It must have kicked me out because I was AFK or something, or maybe or something. Let's just go Amaterasu, that way we can just like zoom across the map. Let it load real quick. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Conquest map and show you exactly where these wards should be placed, because there's some parts of the map that may clip the jungler as he's pathing towards your lane, or that may be getting like zoned off by a wall or something like that. So I want to make sure you guys know exactly where I'm talking about. Once we get in game, I'm just going to go full movement speed and try and get over to my lane. We'll go sprint and a teleport just in case we need to teleport back to lane to show you. I'll go Chalice and that. So let's get over to solo side of the map and show you exactly where these wards need to be placed. Okay, so the first ward I talked about is right here. You want to have it placed right about here. That way it covers this option right here. It also sees where they're coming from this side. So if they come through here, like all those paths I showed you, it's just going to cover that. And it will you need it right here. You don't really want to have it like right here, because then it's not going to cover this ward over here, or this path over here if they come through here, that far ward isn't going to catch it. And the other ward I was talking about, just as important as far as where exactly you put it, is about right here. This is essential ward. It's not a regular ward, so it's going to cover a little bit more. But it's going to cover this path. It's going to cover the path over here. All these paths coming through it, you're going to see them. But make sure it's right here, not anywhere for this side, further that side, or further this side, because it won't catch the alternative path. So let me back real quick, get more wards. I guess I could just ping it, but I want to be more thorough about it. We'll teleport mid. Then I'll show you the aggressive wards like we talked about. So one on their back camps is good, and one right here is also pretty good. So right there, it's just going to cover the timer on the back camp. See if they, it's going to cover right here, this path towards mid. It's going to clip them, and we'll see that. So you'll see it on the map real quick. And the other one is right here. Maybe a little bit more this way. That way you cover from going this path, also going through this path. And if you're ever proxying, you're back here, you're going to see them on this ward, and then you're going to see them cross on that ward. So that's pretty useful as well. So those are your two aggressive wards that you want to have. This one's going to be a little bit more to the left. I just kind of rushed it. Let me grab a sentry. And now we're going to show you, well, I could show you the global ult ward, which is pretty standard. I guess I'll sprint towards it. Sometimes you get lost in this map. It's still pretty fresh. Basically, it's like right here. Because they're going to be coming from into the fire giant pit and trying to ult from here. This also covers a little bit of the pyro, so if maybe that 10 minutes they're trying to rush a pyro, you can cover that as well. And then also I mentioned that sometimes their global ults will come from their blue buff, and you'll catch them on this ward. So if they have global ults, those two wards are good. And sometimes they'll even ult from like right here, just because it's it's basically the same as fire giant pit, but if they recognize that you may have the fire giant pit warded, they may ult from here. So having these mid wards, like I talked about, is even more important, because if they have a global ultimate and you see them cross from like right here, you have that ward right there, and you see them go into this side of the jungle, and then you don't see them for a while, they could be ulting from wherever you don't have warded it towards that side of the map. And then also, of course, there's this ward. This little rock right here, I think they intentionally placed just for warding. That way there's 2 different paths, and you can't really have that entire thing warded. So either, you want to have at least it from the path coming from mid. That way you can tell which way they exactly go, because it's pretty useful information. So that's why it's better to ward on this side of the rock, as far as for mid laners. So, and then the last but not least is the ward back here. I don't have a ward to place, but just the ward on their speed, so that you can get the timer and you can kind of pressure it, know when their jungler is there, and so on and so forth. So these are all pretty good wards, pretty standard wards for Season 5. Nothing too fancy, but it should help you guys avoid ganks and play with the information that you get from the map. This stuff should be pretty simple. Buying a War Chalice, I do recommend. It's pretty useful in solo lane. 300 gold. It used to be 400 gold. 300 gold for infinite regular wards, and regular wards are still really good as solo laner because you're going to be super aggressive. You're going to be placing wards on their side of the map, which they're not going to be sentry warding most of the time. So that's why I think it's super valuable on solo laners, because you're going to be kind of playing up as much. And as since you're super tanky, you can kind of get away with walking into the jungle and placing wards where you'd like. So yeah, that's why I like Ward Chalice this season, and that's where I'm going to be placing my wards, at least in ranked and stuff like that. So I recommend you guys do the same. Just little things we've learned from playing so far in Season 5. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. If you did, let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, leave a like, all that kind of good stuff. If you like soloing content, subscribe to my channel. I'll bring you a lot more in the future. And yeah, see you guys later.